What's going on YouTube? So Cadillac is in the midst of completely updating their entire lineup. And for 2020, it's their best seller's turn to get refreshed. This is the 2020 XT5, which is receiving a lot of the upgrades from the XT6. And of course, we do want to pause for a second to thank our friends at Quantrell Cadillac for giving us this XT5 for the day. And if you're in the market for any new Cadillac, make sure you stop by their dealership or visit their website. So with that all said, let's go ahead and see just how much better Cadillac's top product has gotten. All right, so we'll kick this review off with the exterior updates. Now, the most obvious update is going to be the grille. As you can probably tell, it has been changed to basically look a lot more like the XT6. So you now have, instead of the bars, you have kind of a mesh. On the premium luxury and the luxury, it's a silver mesh. And on that new sport trim, this would all be blacked out for a sportier look. Now, as far as the headlights, they have also been updated this year. Not really in terms of the design, but the fact that LED headlights are now standard across the board, where you previously had halogen headlights on the lower trim levels. Now next up here we have the wheels, which all of the designs have been fully redesigned for 2020. So standard on your luxury and your premium luxury trim are going to be 18-inch alloys. However, you have a wide variety of 20-inch options available, including these that you see here on this model. Now, as far as the sport trim, that one does come standard with 20-inch alloys. And then as far as your mirrors are concerned, you do have standard heating. However, when you go for the premium luxury or the sport, that's where you'll get power folding, auto dimming, as well as blind spot monitoring.
Now, walking around to the rear design, you're not going to see as many changes as you do in the front, but that is not to say that they didn't change anything, because there is quite a few differences for this 2020 model. To start out, there is that new sport trim, and what that will do will black out this rear window chrome trim, as well as clear out the taillight lenses. So this will be a clear design instead of this red. Both options will be LED though. And down here at the bottom, you will notice a few changes down here. Now that the premium luxury has a nice chrome trim down here, as well as all of the models getting upgraded larger exhaust pipes. Now, the safety front has also been updated for 2020, and that's that it now includes forward emergency braking and auto high beam headlights standard across the XT5 lineup. Now, if you want some of the more advanced safety systems like lane keeping assist, that's going to be standard in the premium luxury and sport, and then they can also add on the driver assistance package, which will add in the adaptive cruise control as well as reverse auto braking. But anyway, guys, that sums up all of the exterior changes for this 2020 XT5. So now let's go ahead and hop inside and see if they changed anything in there.
So walking up to the XT5, you will continue to find Cadillac's smart entry system with their standard metal key fob. You will also find standard remote start. And then as far as getting inside the vehicle itself, like most GM vehicles, there's not a sensor behind the handle, so you just press the button. Alright, so peeking inside this refreshed XT5, you'll notice that the main elements of the interior design do carry over, but as far as this refresh, it really addresses a lot of different details, which we'll point out as we go through the video. Now, one of the updates for 2020 is that there are more interior color and material schemes available to differentiate between the trims. So starting on your luxury, that's where you'll have leatherette seating with jet black only. Going for the premium luxury or the sport though, will get you real leather, and that introduces jet black, Cirrus, Sedona, and Kona brown color options. Furthermore, you now have a platinum package which you can add to either of those trims, and that upgrades you to fine semi-aniline leather in the color choices of jet black or a special maple sugar option. Now turning over here to your door trim, it is nicely appointed on this premium luxury. So we have a leatherette on the armrest as well as above it, and a soft touch plastic with stitching. Of course, as you can see, this particular model has real aluminum trim. And one of the updates for 2020 is that we now have real metal speaker grills. when you go for this Bose Performance Series sound system. Below that, we have 2-person memory seating on the top 2 trim levels, and your front 2 windows are one-touch auto up and down. Now heading down here to your seat, this is the standard 8-way power adjusting seat with 2-way lumbar support. And then as far as the seat itself, like I mentioned, this is real leather on the premium luxury until you go for that platinum package, which will get you that really nice semi-aniline leather. Now, like I kind of already mentioned, the materials have also been upgraded for 2020. So across your upper dashboard here, you will find a soft touch plastic with a double stitching detail, and that does carry down to this area as well. Below that, we have some more soft touch plastic, and then we have this real aluminum trim, part of it with the texture and part of it just plain. All this lower area, this is all soft touch, all through here as well. And you'll even find a leatherette along the side here for your knee to rest against. And everything, despite the complicated design, does fit together pretty well. Now to start up every XT5, you just put your foot on the brake and press the button. Now, one of the most noticeable 2020 changes have got to be these gauges. As you can probably tell, the kind of odd design from last year, that's been deleted. We now have a more traditional Cadillac look here with an 8-inch display in the middle if you go for the premium luxury or the sport trim. And of course, that does contain all the typical kinds of information. Additionally, on this specific example with the technology and visibility package, we also have the head-up display, which can show a wide variety of information. Now coming back to the steering wheel, of course we do have electric power assisted steering with a nice leather wrapped steering wheel. Surprisingly, across all of the trim levels, you do have a power adjusting steering wheel, and you will also find heating on the premium luxury and the sport trim. Alright, so let's go ahead and move into storage next. The center console area has been slightly redesigned for 2020. So we'll start out with the center console here. First, you're greeted with this little bin here. You can remove this, and it is quite large with a nice felt lining inside. You also notice you have a traditional USB and a new USB Type-C port. Up in front of that, we have the wireless phone charger. Your phone just slides right through there. That's also on the top 2 trims. Got your covered cup holders, another storage area right there. And then, since we have an electronic shifter, Cadillac actually leaves all this space right here open for storage. So this is certainly a very versatile cabin as far as places to stick stuff. Now, like I was just saying, part of the reason for all that storage is the electronic shifter. This is generation 2, so it does have simpler operation, which is a nice thing to add. So you pull back for drive. You can pull back once more to go into the manual mode, and you will also find paddle shifters on board. With this new generation shifter, reverse is straight up instead of off to the side like it used to be. And then when we go into reverse, you will find a standard backup camera on all of the models. However, the aforementioned visibility and technology package does throw in a 360-degree surround vision camera for this model. Now this is one of the areas that's been upgraded. Both the regular and this 360 camera now have the newest generation of graphics, which are much improved from last year. You also will find a ton more angles, so you have things for like backing up a trailer, 360 view, both your sides so that you don't scrape, just a whole bunch of different angles. So it's certainly a really nice setup. And then for park, you're just going to press the P right on the top, and there is an electronic parking brake. Now behind the shifter, we have a brand new area for this XT5. That's basically the new controller. This allows you to, control the Q display without having to actually touch it. And the volume knob has also moved down here. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the audio system. Now, you have a standard 8-speaker Bose sound system across all the models. However, packaged with the optional navigation system on the top 2 trims is a 14-speaker Bose Performance Sound Series system, which is what we have on this example. So let's go ahead and take a listen. I'm happy to report that sound quality is very strong with this system, and like I already mentioned, we have new full metal speaker grills, which are certainly a classy touch added to this cabin. Alright, so next up the dashboard are our climate controls. So you have a dual zone automatic setup on most of the models, however we have an optional 3-zone automatic setup on this model. And as you can see, you can just simply make your adjustments right through there with these 3 easy buttons. And these are all physical buttons, even though they look like they're capacitive touch buttons. Off to the side of that, you have 3-stage heated seats. These are now standard on every single trim level for 2020. And then we also have the ventilated seats, which are included with that 3-zone climate package. Now moving on up, all models will come with an auto-dimming mirror. However, this model here with the visibility and technology package throws in the rear vision mirror. And then up top here, you will find a standard panoramic moonroof on all but that base luxury trim level. And as you can see, it goes back a really long ways, and the front portion does open up. Alright, so that is going to do it for all of the things to look at in the front part of the cabin. So now I'll go ahead and let my brother Mason show you all the stuff in the back.
Alrighty, so hopping to the XT5's rear seat, obviously this is a very important part of any car in this segment, and it does deliver a very nice rear seat, especially in this tester. Now looking here in the center at the actual features, we do have the tri-zone climate, and included with that is 3-stage heated rear seats, so that's a nice touch to have. And down below that we do have vents, which are standard across all of the models. We have a little storage shelf, and then further below that we have a regular USB port as well as a USB Type-C. So you are going to find pretty good features in this XT5's rear seat. And as far as the actual space is concerned, you're going to find 40 inches of rear legroom and 38 inches of rear headroom, which does actually place it above the Lexus RX. So space is definitely not going to be a concern. And behind Drew's seating position, I have probably, I would say, at least 7 to 8 inches of rear legroom, and my feet can easily slide up underneath the seat. Now walking up to the XT5's tailgate, they do nicely throw in a Power 1 standard across the board, and it is also hands-free on the premium luxury and sport trims. So just wave your foot under the bumper to open it up. And once inside of the cargo area of this XT5, you're once again going to be pleasantly surprised because this is very big for this class of vehicle. Behind the second row seats, it's rated at 30 cubic feet of space, and if you fold them, it goes all the way to 63 cubic feet, which is worth noting. That's quite a bit of an increase over the Lexus RX, if that's what you're comparing it to. Now, it is also worth noting, if you need more space than that, of course they do offer the XT6. That does have a third row as well, so that's just something to throw, just to mention here. And as far as how Cadillac has finished it back here, it is finished pretty nicely. So we do have a carpeted floor, and up underneath, we have a little bit of storage area, as well as their traditional, the XT5 is one of the only vehicles that I've seen that has this. It has a divide cargo system that can kind of help you divide the cargo area out. And off to the side, we do also have a 12-volt power outlet, as well as LED lighting. Now here at the passenger seat, we do have an 8-way power adjusting one, just like the driver's. And in front, we do have a really good sized glove box. This actually is quite a bit larger than I would have expected, and it is nicely felt lined. And up top, we have a sun visor with lights and mirror, and it does also detach as well as extend. Well guys, that sums up all the rear areas of this XT5, so let's go ahead and take it out on the road and see how that 4-cylinder engine performs.
First launching up to about 60 miles per hour right there in the brand new 2-liter turbo XT5. So that's one of your big additions for 2020 is that new option, or not option, excuse me, it's the new standard engine being a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder, making 237 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque. Now by power, of course, that is less than the V6 engine, but that is still available as an option on the premium, luxury, and standard on the sport trim.
Yeah, and that engine is going to produce 310 horsepower and 271 pound-feet of torque. So really not that much of a torque disadvantage with this 2-liter model. It's really mainly in the horsepower, but honestly taking off there, I mean, we've driven the 3.6-liter engine several times in this XT5, and to be honest, I didn't miss it too much. You know, that first acceleration, it still felt relatively quick, actually.
Yeah, it feels pretty spunky. Like you said, this torque is pretty much the same, which contributes to that. Of course, it's just, you know, lighter engine, you know, less weight to push around. So really, it does feel like it's not too big of a disadvantage at all.
And may I add, I don't think it sounds half bad. The 3.6-liter V6 sounded a little odd last time I was in it in the XT5, and I actually kind of like the sound of the 2-liter in this model.
Now, as far as the transmission, that is also a new thing for 2020. We now have a 9-speed automatic that replaces the previous 8-speed automatic. Now, as far as just driving around here, I mean, you're not going to notice a big difference, but it is the latest powertrain, just like in the XT6. So we're just kind of getting everything up to date to the latest, most efficient, you know, powertrain setup.
And as far as the drivetrains are concerned, it does have the standard front-wheel drive. And you do have optional all-wheel drive, but it's the twin clutch setup, which basically gives you more control over which, you know, wheel it's going to, the all-wheel drive system. And the sport trim does actually come standard with the all-wheel drive, if you're looking at that. Now, probably a very important part of this XT5 is its ride quality. And obviously, you know, this goes head-to-head with the Lexus RX, so it's obviously got to have a really good ride quality. And I have to say, I'm very impressed just kind of cruising around the road here. You know, when you hit a bump, you really can't feel it. It's in pretty much typical, you know, Cadillac, really good ride quality. I will say, we do have the really big wheels on this model, so I do think that that has impacted the ride quality a little bit over the one we tested last year that had the really small rims. So that's just something that, you know, I want to, you know, kind of emphasize here. If you want to go for the stylish rims, you're probably going to sacrifice the ride quality a little bit, and that will be worse than the, you know, Lexus RX and stuff like that.
Now, unrelated to that, we do have auto start stop, and it starts up pretty nice and smoothly. I can't remember if last year it had the defeat button or not. I know some of the General Motors vehicles didn't have the defeat button, but we definitely do have it here on board this year, so if it gets on your nerves, just reach right up there and turn it off. Now, of course, that's not really a main part of why you buy an XT5, but I will mention kind of the dynamics of it. Of course, as you would expect, definitely more on the luxury side of things. So you're going to be just like the RX.
Yeah.
This is a luxury-focused vehicle. That's what its main competitor is, and that is what it's focused on. So you have pretty soft ride quality, you know, a little bit looser body roll. The steering is quite lightweight as well. Now, obviously, you could probably expect if you go for the sport trim, now we haven't driven it, but if you go for that sport trim, it will likely, you know, firm things up as far as the steering and the suspension are concerned.
And lastly here, I do need to talk about the fuel economy real quick. So for the 2-liter front-wheel drive, that's going to be rated at 21 city, 28 highway, 24 combined. And then if you go for the 3.6-liter front-wheel drive, you're actually going to lose quite a bit of fuel economy over this 2-liter model to 18 city, 26 highway, 21 combined. So that's a 3 mpg difference between the 3.6-liter and this 2-liter. And to be honest, after I've been in this 2-liter and we drove this around, I don't know if it's worth it, to be honest. I really kind of like this 2-liter engine, and you are paying quite a bit of a price penalty, you know, in terms of fuel economy for that engine.
But overall, Cadillac certainly made some good additions to this XT5 for 2020. Of course, you have a lot of different things updated, but in the driving experience, it has definitely improved. And that new 2-liter engine, as we just discussed, really is a nice addition to the lineup. And certainly, if you're in the market for an XT5, I would definitely advise, don't just assume you need the V6. Go ahead and try out the 4-cylinder because you may be impressed at what you find.
Alrighty, and now let's go ahead and discuss the pricing. So the below MSRPs are going to be for the 2-liter front-wheel drive, and it does include the $995 destination charge. So for the luxury model, that's going to start at $45,090. The premium luxury, which is what we have here, is $49,790. And then if you go for that top-end sport model, that's actually going to include the V6 engine standard and all-wheel drive, and that's going to start at $56,090. That is worth noting that for 2020, that's about a base price increase of $3,000, but pretty much the rest of the prices will remain the same. Now, as far as how this one's equipped, we do have several option packages. So we have the Enhanced Visibility and Technology package for $2,275, the 20-inch wheels for $1,700, the Comfort and Air Quality package for $1,200, as well as the Q system for $1,025. And then finally, when you add the destination charge, this particular tester as equipped comes in at $55,990, which is a pretty good price point. It's going to be, you know, a top-end XT5 is going to be quite a bit more expensive than the Lexus RX, but this one as equipped is pretty much in line with that RX, you know, price point, and you are getting quite a bit for your money here. Well guys, we've enjoyed watching this in-depth look at the 2020 Cadillac XT5 Premium Luxury. If you've made it this far, hopefully that means you enjoyed the video, so be sure to help us out by hitting that subscribe button down below, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.